to. I'm your presenter, Shabu RU. And this is Miami, Florida State Week here in the great state of Florida. Also, we're wrapping up IDW's mini series within the regular run of GIJoe, A Real American Hero. And I'll be honest with you, this episode has been probably one of the best Larry Hama works I have seen in a long time. And also has made me realize how handicapped he was during the Marvel run. I mean, this issue is full of emotion. It features Scarlett. So, without further ado, we're just going to jump right on in. And I just hope that this whole series that I've been doing ignites the people that love the Marvel run that G.I. Joe had and kind of brings them back in. Because I'll tell you what, you are really missing out on some excellent writing, some excellent stories, and also characters that weren't prominent in the Marvel run because of Hasbro's agenda. So sit back and let's get to it. Right off the bat, IDW is celebrating 100 issues of G.I. Joe. For those that do not know, IDW picked up right after Marvel's last issue of 155. I wanted to highlight the amazing fold-out cover by up-and-coming artist Jagdish Kumar. Wow, this is beautiful. I mean, check out these great details. So we begin with issue. Scarlett is riding the New York City ferry. She appears to be looking out onto Lady Liberty, but in fact she is in the past. To those who aren't following, Snake Eyes is dead. Now, in the issues that followed, we really haven't dealt with how Scarlett has been grieving with this loss. So this is a way to look into this and see how she's coping. She reflects back on a cherished memory of her and Snake Eyes riding the same ferry. It was like their special time away from the other Joes, and she looked back on this with great fondness. In this particular incident, they were approached by members of the Crimson Guard. And you'd think that, Scarlett isn't really the damsel in distress, but at the same time, she always knew that Snake Eyes was her man and would always have her back. And as you see, Snake Eyes is taking care of business and shoves this coffee in this dude's face while another Crimson Guard pulls out his clock. That's like a dinger bell for Snake Eyes, and he jumps into action. Now, in the other panels that follow this, we quickly find out that the one-time advantage that the Crimson Guard had over Scarlett and Snake Eyes is one by one falling apart, as they're really taking care of business and totally overmatch the Crimson Guardmen. Now, Snake Eyes and Scarlett reconnect and embrace each other. But they forgot that there's one guy left to remain. There's always one guy. And he pulls out his gun, not before Snake Eyes turns around and pops a cap in his ass. But then, before he falls out, he grabs Snake Eyes' mask and reveals his hideous face. This makes the guy scream in horror. But, like a good girlfriend, Scarlett always has an extra mask for Snake Eyes. The things she does for love. And we have a wonderful moment of Snake Eyes and Scarlett. Now we find that Rock and Roll picks up Scarlett. And what's interesting is it's not Clutch. And we all remember how Clutch used to sexually harass Scarlett at every moment. So Rock and Roll picks up Scarlett in the vamp out of the terminal, and they head back to Fort Wadsworth, where a whole bunch of Joes are waiting for Scarlett to come back from her quote-unquote mission into the city. One of those is Wade Collins' son Sean. As throwback, his face and vocal cords were burned off, which led to him assuming the mantle of Snake Eyes. Scarlett has another flashback. In this one, their Apache helicopter was shot. But in the ensuing struggle and all the chaos, Scarlett is stuck. Her and Snake Eyes struggle to set her free. She repeatedly tells Snake Eyes to leave me, go save yourself, and also confesses her love for Snake Eyes. The helicopter stuff is just blowing up around them, and they struggle to get her free. And at that very moment, this burst comes in Snake Eyes' face, burning him. Rock and Roll is down below, and they notice that their helicopter is going down, and they think they bought it. But out from the dust and on the smoke emerges Snake Eyes. his face still in flames, carrying a unconscious Scarlett. The other Joes look at now Snake Eyes' hideous face. While bandaged up, Snake Eyes is on board the same ferry. He begins to want to push Scarlett away, but Scarlett refuses, saying that I love the man inside, not what he looks like, and basically says that I love you no matter what. The other Joes listen. They're used to hearing war stories, but what they're listening to is one of the greatest love stories in modern time. Now, Scarlett unbandages the, Mr. Invisible looking Snake Eyes and confesses, yeah, it's really bad, but Snake Eyes. But she has a plan. There's a Hollywood prop guy that's used to making prosthetics. So they basically meet him and he agrees to make this mask. Well, the mask is successful, but it begs the question, is Snake Eyes Chuckles? Stalker shows up and said there's a prototype special forces unit that he has for Snake Eyes. And now, one of the most iconic images is about to be unveiled. The birth of Snake Eyes. And as Scarlett says, this will strike fear into America's enemy. And man, is this an awesome shot. So going back to the present, so Scarlett reveals that her mission across the Hudson was to see Anthony, the Hollywood prosthetics guy, because she wanted to help Sean get a mask, and he has a carbon copy of Snake Eyes. And basically that wraps up this special missions. Mission complete. Boy, was that a great journey. I mean, you get the whole, it's not just guns and bullets and everything. You get real heart in this issue. You get a woman grieving for the loss of her soulmate and just going on to the next mission. For her, it was kind of like saying goodbye to Snake Eyes. And like I said, Larry Hama is free to write and incorporate all these elements instead of just pushing toys. And I found this to be amazing, in that sense that he has that freedom. And it's not all shooting and GIJoe. It's like a different element. These guys, these characters, they have human emotions, and I think Larry Hama's opening up that door. And that was the big question for me after the death of Snake Eyes, is what about Scarlett? And finally, we get to see that she's living with this, and my heart goes out to her. And you could be a tough guy with muscles. It doesn't matter. You have to have a heart and see that for, on this level. So I really am very, very happy with this run of special missions. I hope IDW does more of them later down the road. But we're going back to the ninjas, because if you remember in an earlier video, I said there's not one, but there's two Snake Eyes. And Dawn Marino is assumed the other. She has all of Snake Eyes' memory from the brainwave scanner embedded into her. So Snake Eyes is still alive, but it's in this girl's mind. And so what IDW is doing is they're making they're branching off from the main GIJoe, and they have the Dawn Marino and Sean Collins, two Snake Eyes. I think Rock and Roll, Torpedo, and I forget who else, but they're going after Helix, which is a new GIJoe character. So she's been a fan favorite to the GIJoe club and everything. So Larry Hama is incorporating that. So we'll review that comic in not so distant future. So once again, this is Shabu RU signing off. Thank you.